My dearest viewer, in case you have forgotten, I am only one misplaced step away from having this channel deleted, so please subscribe to me on my alternative channel, as well as my channel on migtau.tv. Thank you very much, and back to our scheduled programming. To echo what you just said, anyways. We're all,
No, no, I know what you mean though. Like it's right now that's not. But if we're not like, if you're not, if there's not like a emphasis on, no, this is important, and there's more of people being like, no, you shouldn't be using this. There's no reason to. Where you, then there could be it, like you said, for example, like that pedophile thing, that ARC Act, that this where the government say this is why we're doing this, but it also has an actual.
it's about, yeah,
Yeah, it could be something similar. Could be done exactly the.
and I mean, you not only is the government doing this, just saying like, oh, it's a not only the government is using like fancy words as smoke screens, but obviously feminists do it all the fucking time too. Like there's something as simple as the wage gap. It's all about it's about inequality, but then they turn around and fucking complain about there's no economically attractive men anymore. Okay, well the obvious reason why they're begging for the the wage gap to be resolved is just give me more free money on from the government, paid by men, because men are the only ones that are fucking paying taxes to begin with. So it's not something that's unique to the government. It's something that people just do in general. You know, it's obviously lying to your audience about what you're really trying to do. Basic deception 101, right? It's just that people make an exception for the government because they think that it's just some kind of like amorphous entity, or excuse me, a non-human entity, even though it is obviously composed by many large groups of humans. I remember, even though I think there was this movie called like The Corporation. It was a documentary that my fucking university made me watch. And even though it's just basically like, oh, capitalism bad, companies, big corporations are doing this. The corporation classifies as a sociopath and a narcissist, and it abuses people and manipulates them and blah 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 blah. You know, even though I disagree with that, I think it is a good idea to map or analyze the behavior of a large entity, whether it's like a corporation or ideology, much like a human, because the functions of a group, like the rules of psychology and sociology, can apply to a human as well as a group of humans, or a business, or an ideology. Ideologies like they evolve and then they have like their own like taxonomy where they have different relatives, they have descendants, they have cousins, and they live, they're born, they have a lifespan, and they die, and they're replaced by their inheritors or their descendants, just like biological organisms. So, and understanding like how what is it, like socialism is like the successor species to the the social gospel movement, which is a part of Christianity. It's part of like the Christianity genus or order. And Christianity came from Type 2 errors, and then the Type 2 errors just basically an artifact of human nature before we understood, science. And so you can organize that into a family tree, and you can really understand if people are really coming from the same place that you are, or if people are really on the same page in terms of what is happening in reality. Because, another example is like, how social justice is, it's the new religion. It's essentially Christian morality, which is what Nietzsche calls slave morality, but minus God and minus the Bible. And other than that, despite us, let's say, I don't know if I've ever, I don't know if you guys really, I don't know if I ever talked about this, but I'm fairly atheistic, and even though like the anti-Christian patriarchy feminist slut is an atheist. Obviously we come from two completely different moral frameworks, and at first, it's easy to think that we have something in common, but understanding where both of our groups came from You know, this person is a feminist socialist who had Christian parents, and I came from a lineage that just didn't come from Christianity whatsoever. Like, I don't know, like my parents were immigrants or something. Then understanding where the origins, like the ancestry, the family tree of the way people think is very important, very useful, and if anything, I think it would save us a lot of trouble in like not getting backstabbed by infiltrators from a different group.
Yeah, I think I understand. Yeah, where like history is more than just a story. It's the past will help you get answers now, type of deal. Not sure if I got the same. If I understood correctly what you're going for. There we learning, having a better understanding of what it sound like of where things came from in the past could help for understanding how to fix things now. So that's what it's.
Well, yeah, I guess it's part of understanding the past, but it just goes beyond like, oh, it just goes beyond like, oh well, Hitler didn't like immigrants, so if you don't like immigrants, then you're literally Hitler. You're gonna plunge the West. You're gonna plunge your country into the same downfall that Nazi Germany did. It goes beyond that because understanding how, okay, you know how like TFM talks about how ideologies are organized into like a trichotomy, and I'm willing to. I think that we should also organize ideologies into a family tree, and um, that would
So they
provide.
like they go through. Sorry, like so they
Yeah,
go through like a.
because it's really easy. Like for example, where do you put the GOP on the trichotomy? They will have like a range, but they're obviously moving along in a certain direction. And the reason why they're moving along in that direction is because they follow the writings and the ideas of Immanuel Kant. And Immanuel Kant I would imagine is a I'd imagine like either like a Protestant or a Catholic Christian. And that's the common ancestor that Kant, Catholics, Protestants, and social justice warriors and fucking commies, they all come from the social justice, no, the social gospel movement in Christianity. And interestingly enough, the reason why we hate the trad cucks is because they all come from that same ancestor as well. It's about
Right.
the reformist divisions of Christianity. And
Okay. What does trichotomy mean?
okay, so a dichotomy means that you have like two options, or there's two sides to a story. Now a
Okay.
trichotomy is like three. So we know people obviously have trouble understanding a system more than just like this guy good, this guy bad. So that's why they form politics into left and right, which is a dichotomy. But in reality, there's a third angle to the spectrum, and that's where that's about the three groups: freedom, equality, and stability. And these groups
Okay.
will always fight with each other until the end, because each group wants to have complete control over the entire triangle, and they won't stop fighting until they get it, or they just get killed off. So yeah, and just as important as I'm not going to downplay the trichotomy, which obviously isn't TFM's invention. It's been around for probably longer than TFM's been on YouTube. But I think that just as important as knowing the position on the trichotomy is also knowing the origins, or like the lineage of an ideology or a company or a culture, country, whatever. Any non-human entity that consists of a large number of humans. The rules of human psychology still apply to groups of people. And I think that's the reason why people trust government, because they think it's not a person, and that it would function differently than a person would, just because it's a faceless, nameless entity. But in reality, it's an organism of its own. I guess it'd be wrong to call it like a person, because it doesn't have like the emotions that a human does, but it is an organism, like a colony of bacteria
What?
or whatever, like the way that
Sorry for
biology
the
works. Yeah.
questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry for
Sorry.
the questions. But what is a person? What is that?
Oh, we're getting philosophical here, aren't we?
I guess so. I have no idea what it means. Hey, I don't like listening to someone and then being like, okay,
Well,
this
I guess
understanding it, but then not know what it is.
I respect the merit of. I mean, I'll grant merit to the fact that you want clarification on definition of words. So, a person to me, uh, what I define as a person is a combination of emotions and a feedback loop, a logic based feedback loop. Now, obviously, I define it this way is because it not only applies to um, humans, but also to certain types of intelligent animals. And is this still recording? Was that my computer?
That was mine.
Okay,
I
never mind. All right, sorry.
okay.
So the personhood is something I define meaning like a logical circuit that is also governed by biological factors, or not necessarily biological factors, emotions, and a logic circuit or a logic loop. And this can
I
apply to
see.
not only humans but also certain types of intelligent animals, I suppose, as well as the upcoming, influx of artificial intelligence that's coming along our way. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I got a better understanding. That's good enough for me. Now,
So,
continue, please.
now that on second thought, I do realize that okay, I just stated that groups of humans don't really demonstrate emotion very well, and that obviously goes against my definition of trying to anthropomorphize a non-human collective entity like a corporation or a culture or a government. But I think maybe I should revise my definition of a person. It is a it is a logic feedback loop along with intentions. And even though like a business, you can't say a government really has emotions or has feelings, but it does have intentions, which aren't always predictable. Sometimes they just like don't give a shit, so then they're just gonna let you off whenever you had this little error when you were filing your taxes. Or maybe it's like had a bad day, quote unquote, and then just decides to pick on you for a tax evasion, even though you were just paying paying Project Melody to weirdly diddle herself with her 3D hand that's all glitchy and going through her leg or whatever. So it's
I guess.
that's what's more I guess what's more important than simply talking about like or trying to understand people's emotions is their intentions. And reading emotions is only like a means towards finding out what their intentions are, but in the end an intent is what you really need to pay attention to. Mainly
I agree. I agree with that. I agree.
not because good intentions can outweigh bad consequences because I'm not a fucking Kant fan, but because intentions obviously are the predecessor to um, actions, and actions is obviously what really can make or break a situation. So,
Yeah, it's like the defining factor of what happened. Action.
well, man is action. So without actions, then your thoughts, intentions, and good wishes, and sending thoughts and prayers won't do anything. So,
Yeah.
am I close enough to my mic? I see my gain bar is just like dropping.
You sound good.
All right,
You sound
perfect.
nice to me.
I'm not having any like cutouts or any gaps in my sound.
Not recent. No, not recently.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I need to go take a
Maybe
piss. So I don't know. You guys can stay on if you want.
soft.
I'm just chilling. I'm just chilling.
I'm just.
Right.
Owling.